Kurt, how are you? Looks like you have a helper there today. Hi, Caleb.
Howdy there.
And Caleb, you're with Fenworks?
Yes, yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Well, we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here as always.
Yeah. We'll wait a few minutes because I think we'll have more people jumping in here.
Awesome. I saw it went out to a lot of people. I know there's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Michelle, where are you out of?
I'm out of Cheyenne, the
Awesome.
capital city. Yeah.
Awesome. Kurt, how about you? Where are you out of? I don't know if we can hear Kurt.
I hope you're on mute now. You just put it back on mute. There you
No,
go.
you're good. I am out of right.
Where'd you say?
Right?
Right.
As opposed to left.
Correct. Yeah.
You probably know Kurt's mom, Carla Ludeman,
Okay.
up in Moorcroft
Yep.
or Upton, I guess. Upton.
Yep, Upton.
That's awesome. So what, you're both nerdy? Is the whole family nerd? Wait, what's going on there?
I basically refused it for, 30 odd years, and I was like, all right, you're right, Mom.
You drew him in.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Told me for years I should probably get into this. I said, no, I'm not into any of that junk.
And it's so good to see Krista on.
Yeah. And Julie, you're in Johnson County as well, correct?
I am, yes.
That's what I thought. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Krista.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Caleb.
Howdy.
Long time no see.
I know, too long.
Yeah.
I wish I was able to make it out to Buffalo this last time.
Yeah, you should have been there. It was lots of fun.
Next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Not bad. Yep, see ya.
Well, if you would drop your name and your district into the chat, I would appreciate it. Hi, Zach. And that way we'll make sure that we get you credit for being here today. Welcome, Amy. If you'll drop your, I just asked everybody to drop their name and their district into the chat. And that way I'll make sure that you get credit for being here today. But I know that we have a lot of information to cover. I just really quickly wanted to let you know, and I will drop this information in the chat as well, that next Wednesday, we will be having for our junior high teachers and middle school teachers primarily, a presentation by CompTIA on their new Spark program, which is completely free for junior high and middle school around computer science. So we'll do a presentation for that, and we'll be sending you a flyer as a part of the resources that we send out with the recording from today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. We have Caleb with us from Fenworks. And again, if you are just joining us, please drop your name and your district into the chat, and we will make sure you get credit for being here today, and we'll turn it over to Caleb. So Caleb, thanks for being here to talk about esports with us.
Awesome.
And I know that we'll have some other people joining us here as they get kids out of classrooms and get out of school.
Awesome.
Thanks
Well, it's
again
a
for being
family
with
affair
us.
with
Yeah.
Carla jumping on board. But it is really exciting to be able to talk to some familiar faces and some new faces, which is always very exciting. And so my name is Caleb Deshock. I have the incredible privilege of working with Fenworks. Zach has joined me over the last year as we bring esports to rural communities. So if it's nerdy, if it's high tech, that's exactly what we're about. 4 years ago, I was actually working at the University of North Dakota, building one of the state's first esports program in higher ed. And we had K through 12 educators from small rural towns coming to the university and saying, how do we launch these programs in our communities? We have these students who we've never been able to engage in the scholastic format before. They're not in football. They're not in track and field. They're not in speech and debate, but they matter just as much as other students. And we know they game. Is there anything you can do to help? And so we launched Fenworks 4 years ago, almost to the date, to support those rural schools. Now it's grown beyond our belief. We're doing this in North Dakota, in South Dakota, in Minnesota, and of course, Wyoming. And it's been really, really exciting to see the energy from the past year. I guarantee Krista can do a better job talking about the passion and the excitement and talking about the state tournament and all of the things that went into place there. So I prefer to try to make these interactive. I think COVID sort of, I don't know, scared us all because Zoom and Teams was the only thing to do. But either raise of hands in the comments, anything like that. How many people are familiar with what esports and high-tech activities are already? Hand up. Okay, yeah, so this is pretty familiar. But for those of you who don't know, esports is competitive video gaming. So it's taking one of the world's most popular activities, more popular than sports, more popular than anything, and putting a framework around it where students have to meet the same expectations their peers in other activities have to meet. And so what we're seeing is these students join the video game team, they join the esports team, and we're watching them create social relationships. We're watching their GPAs increase. We're watching them show up to class and behave better because they're part of an activity. And that research is decades old. That shows the engagement of young people really changes the way that they behave and the success that they have in our academic ecosystem. But the best way to probably show off what we're talking about is to highlight the work that's already taken place in Wyoming from educators in the state tournament. Dr. Aldrich, would you be able to allow me to share my screen real quick?
Yep, you have the sharing capability right now.
Perfect. So I'm going to share this screen. You folks should see a YouTube video. Is that right? Or am I crazy? Thumbs up?
We can see it. Yep, we can see it.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is a very fast video. I'll talk over it so you can see. But we had the privilege of hosting a state tournament at Buffalo High School. And I sadly didn't have the opportunity to be out there, but we sent quite a bit of the team out there. And in our first year, we had an enormous in-person event that shows students who engage in these high-tech activities like esports that they matter. They have their opportunity to have mom and dad and grandparents and family cheer them on. They get to be the heroes in a community. And we've seen these events grow year over year. This is the first one that we've been able to do in the state of Wyoming. And frankly, watching students as they engage and be in their element, compete, learn skills like teamwork and leadership and problem solving and learning to be gracious winners and gracious losers is a very important part of how we do this. Giving these students medals and trophies so that they can celebrate their victory. That is really important, and just seeing them come into their element. I would be amiss if, Krista, I don't want to put you on the spot in front of all these people, but maybe you could talk about your experience with the state tournament and with your students as well. because I feel like there is few advocates as strong for esports in the state of Wyoming as you. So I would like to call on you a little bit.
So I got 13 miles in every day of running back and forth that day.
Get some steps in.
Yeah, got some steps in. It was great. We really only had 4 teams that ended up coming up, and we filled out rosters for Fortnite and Rocket League, and we had quite a few kids playing Smash, and it was awesome. It was, we had board members there who had not been pro esports in the past, and they just sat and watched the entire thing, and they sent emails to all of the board and said, you need to come down now and see this. And I had an extra one come up, and it was great. And sportsmanship, the camaraderie, it was great. You don't see that in a lot of things. And so it was definitely well worth it. Worth the 20 some miles in 2 days.
It's good for your health and
Yeah.
physical and mental. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Esports, good for your health.
You don't see it coming. It's the quiet activity, but
Mhm.
I mean, I think it is really incredible, and being able to have Buffalo be the host this year, this last year where we had the state tournament, I think that was frankly incredible, because it gives that in-person experience. And so what we really want to do is let people know that these activities exist. They are enormous. They're part of the bedrock of these students' lives. They're going home and they're playing Fortnite. They're going home and they're playing Minecraft. They're going home and they're playing Rocket League. We need to connect them to the real world. We need to connect them to their local communities. So if they're making friends in their local communities, that is going to be a difference maker in their lives, instead of just gaming by themselves online, wherever they may be. And as someone who has definitely put too many hours into gaming myself, it's good to see that these activities existed. And sadly, they didn't exist for me when I was growing up, but I guarantee I would have been on the esports team. And it's been incredible to see the partnerships and the collaborations. We had a lot of students with special needs compete. That matters to me greatly. My brother has autism. And so knowing that we have an activity that all people can feel like they belong at, that all people can compete at, that is really, really, really important to us. So I can continue to talk at people until the cows come home. I love doing it. I'm a pretty social fella, if you can't tell from my energy. But what I would like to do is just take a moment to see if folks have any questions, anything that they want to say about esports, about high-tech activities, about getting started, about all of those things. I promise I have more to say, but I really do prefer a dialogue better, and I feel like answering your questions and getting other folks involved is a better experience for everyone. So pass it to the group to see if anyone has any immediate questions or comments. That way I can see you all. It can be in chat. You can unmute wherever you prefer.
On. I did this with Krista. She will drag me along usually, and I usually will come willingly. But she set this up, and we got some kids interested, and my middle schoolers absolutely loved it. And we had some of the special needs teams, and watching the high school kids help my middle school teams, and watching that was really cool to see that. So it was a really good experience for my middle schoolers. We kind of have a different beast at the middle school because of it's our first time doing all these sports and activities. So the commitment level is a little bit harder for us, but middle school for us, it was a great experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Some of the best programs we see are starting at that middle school level. And we know that when we engage at younger age levels, we see better diversity in STEM. We see more young women participate. So it's important that we're not just focusing on high school, but middle schools, elementary schools eventually. Getting folks active and engaged in those spaces is really important to me. So Julie, thank you for those comments. That's wonderful.
I guess one of the questions I have for you, Caleb, is, um, I'm guessing that we have some people, with us this afternoon who are not currently involved with esports or have a team. And
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering, because teachers have a lot on their plates,
Yeah.
how do teachers, if they would like to get started, and I think, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Wyoming, every program of study that gets Perkins funding has to align with a career and technical student organization.
Mhm.
And this year we're allowing esports to be that career and technical student organization.
Awesome.
So that a lot of people may not even know that that was put into their grant application by their Perkins coordinator.
That's
So I'm just wondering how teachers go about getting started. How can they integrate this into what they're already doing in the classroom so it's not, increasing their workload?
Yeah, there's a couple of really great answers. It's a big question, so I'll do my best to answer it completely. So the first thing is, you've had a lot of trailblazers who have started esports and really, I think, learned by trial through fire. Krista would definitely say it's been easy the whole time. Definitely never had any challenges launching the program. Carla, if I remember correct, you have also been participating or around the space of esports. Maybe you were considering it, or maybe you've done it in the past. You want to remind me at least of the work you've done in esports or around esports?
Sure. I thought you were going to say, remind us of how old you are, how long you've been doing this.
That seems like a great way to kick it off, right? I think I should just get those in there, but
Right.
no, please.
Right. Well, we were one of the first schools to start in Wyoming, and it was because I had administration backing. And I'll be honest, I have received a coaching stipend. It's not as much as our coaches get for sports, but it's something, and it's worth than my time, to do it. Also, I have a budget for esports.
Nice.
Because you do have to spend some money buying switches or different things. And so I was glad that it was my principal at the time. She supported it. She paid me on. And now I've just seen it grow, and it will continue to grow, get bigger and bigger. And I've seen the games grow, more games. And like you said, it's a place for that kid to be a part of the school when they don't fit in somewhere else. And it also makes those kids get their work done, because we still run the rules just like WASHA does. You have to be eligible to play. So they get their work done, and then they can do their games. So it's been a very positive thing ever since we started.
You're preaching it, Carla. I appreciate that. And I wanted to make sure I gave you some time to talk about your experience as well. And so to sort of morph back over to Dr. Aldrich's question. So some folks here on this call have been through the trial by fire and learning from the seat of their pants. What we're bringing with Fenworks is, first off, the state ecosystem that competes locally. Wyoming schools versus Wyoming schools, culminating in a real in-person event. That is so important to the success of these young people. So that's something that I'm deeply aware of, and our team is deeply aware of. The second thing is, we're actually going to offer a coaching clinic for Wyoming this year. So we're going to start building the infrastructure that you see in other activities to help educators who are starting, or even veterans who've been tested in fire as it was getting out of infancy and into a more mainstream activity across the US, but in Wyoming as well. All educators will have a place in a coaching clinic where we can talk about the best practices, we can talk about student success, and we can help people who might feel overwhelmed get started. Not only are we going to have that coaching clinic, but we also offer that one-on-one. So if you want to talk to us, if you want to have a conversation, our team has only grown in size as we've grown in size. And so we're able to offer more individualized opportunities to teach about how to do esports and how to grow programs and how to make your students successful. In addition, we just partnered with a curriculum provider so that we can offer STEM curriculum in and around the field of esports, computer science, cybersecurity, which Dr. Aldrich, I think, is part of some of that Perkins funding as well, is to have that in school and after school piece. So in high school, I was an FBLA kid and I was a Technology Students Associated nerd. I think I'm actually just a nerd overall. This is a true story. I was the worst cross-country runner in the state of North Dakota. I consistently finished in the back of JV for North Dakota. I brag about it now because it was good for my health and I can still run a mile kind of ish. Don't ask me to do it. But being able to come from different activities, robotics, cross country, FBLA, TSA, that CTE model where there's in-classroom learning and after-school engagement, I think is a really effective philosophy for getting students bought in and engaged at all levels. I think we had quite a few people speak on this. Christy and Julie and Carl already have spoken on this, but holding those students to the same standards that students in other activities are held to, that's part of why we see after-school activities matter. Making sure that they're showing up to class, behaving, and doing their best to pay attention to the content. That relationship between in-school and after-school is so important. And so what we're here to do is if you're interested in launching a new program or anything of that caliber to get esports going, we are here to support you in doing that. We, in the state of South Dakota, for example, got high school activities to sanction esports. It is a state-sanctioned activity. And as Wyoming continues to grow, we'll be ready to push those conversations if that's the way that we want to go. But we're going to let the people of Wyoming determine that, not us. We also develop great relationships with the CTE offices, the DPI offices, the Department of Public Instructions, or whatever it may be called in other states. And just continuing to build these peer groups so that all state partners are brought in and supportive of these efforts as this program just seems to continue to grow year over year over year with new activities, new ways to engage. We're seeing more scholarships and facilities be built in the region and in Wyoming. So we're seeing higher ed get activated. The University of North Dakota has scholarships that they have earmarked for Wyoming students. So we're hoping that as we continue this partnership, and some of you, I think you might have seen some UND materials over at last year's Wyoming State Tournament. These universities and institutions are scholarshiping students because they know they're great students in higher ed. They want to recruit them for their varsity teams. It's been an absolute joy. And the last thing I'll say is when it comes down to dollars, whether you're building a beautiful facility like Krista has access to through some incredible hard work that Krista, I think you and the folks in the district had done, we are also working with grantors. As this continues to grow, we generated $250,000 of new grants in the state of North Dakota. And we generated $250,000 of new grants in the state of South Dakota to go specifically to high-tech activities and esports. As this grows in Wyoming, we're going to be able to go to those industry partners who exist in Wyoming and try and build those grant programs out for folks in Wyoming. So we've got a lot on our plate at Fenworks, but our main mission is to make this easy to launch, to make it so that you have access to resources that help you be a great coach and form that relationship and that activity that makes your young people successful. And that's in both the classroom and in the after-school environment. So we're happy to talk more about those things. Michelle, I think I just took 10 minutes to answer one question. I am failing at being brief, but I am trying to make sure that I am covering all of our bases here. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that helps a lot. I also wanted to point out that we have some community colleges here in Wyoming who have esports teams who are recognized as an athletic team.
Yes.
Laramie County Community College. And I believe at last count, they either had 3 or 4 national titles of their esports team. They are doing extremely well. They also have scholarships and information available for students. And so I'm hoping that as you're working in Wyoming, that you might be able to draw in some of those post-secondary partners as well.
Yes, that is a huge push for us this year. Now that we've had the first year, we've had a state tournament in the state, folks are saying, well, wait, we want to be a part of this more and more, whether it's the University of Wyoming or LCCC. We know that those folks are really excited to engage with students, but not just to talk about the varsity opportunities, but to talk about the right pathways for these students. In North Dakota, we talk about the career force, the armed services, and higher ed. And so for some of these students, higher ed is the way to go. They're excited to pursue a 2-year, a 4-year, or even more education. For my brother with autism, he tried higher ed, but the workforce was the right place for him. He is so excited to work. He is so excited to be a part of his community, and the skills that were trained because of activities at Dickinson High School, a small high school in North Dakota, he feels confident. And so we also know the armed services are huge supporters of esports. For a lot of our young people, serving in our military might be the right pathway for them as they build skills through that dimension. So creating those pathways is important, but we know that higher ed in Wyoming is excited to partner with us more and more this year. And we also know that lots of new Wyoming schools are hopping on board from last year. And so we had roughly maybe 6 to 8 schools in the state of Wyoming last year trying it out and participating. We're expecting that number to go up quite a bit this year just from the conversations we're having. And so helping those schools prepare for new programs and getting these areas ready, that's part of what we do. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And I saw in a comment that there's a top 5% Fortnite player over in Eastern Wyoming. Torrington, I believe that must be a college, maybe a higher ed institution over there. Yeah. It's incredible. That's incredible to see. So you're seeing these higher ed programs launch, and they're looking to K through 12 to make sure that you're filling strong programs where these people feel like they belong. So there's a lot of advantages to launching esports.
What is the cost, Caleb, if someone wants to start a team? And what are do you have any dates for events for Wyoming?
Great questions. So I'm going to tackle this from a couple of standpoints. So first and foremost, what we do is we help school districts begin to budget for this. The first thing to budget for is write-in teacher contract negotiations, which is a esports stipend for the coach. I think it was Carla talking about the fact that she had the blessing to be a funded coach. This activity matters, so all folks should be working towards that, and we're going to support you folks being compensated similar to a speech coach or a track and field coach from your school districts. We've had enormous success with that in other states. This is still very new in Wyoming, so we got work to do, but we're going to work towards that. Fenworks has a fee. It's $1,000 per school. That covers basically everything, and $100 per student. So they can be in infinite game titles. That's, covers our cost for the state tournament, allowing us to work with partners as we grow that event, trophies, medals, training, the coaching clinics. So those are some of the fees. The last thing is equipment. You don't have to have equipment to be a part of esports. I can tell you having a facility and having a lab can be a game changer. It can be a great way to have a space for those students to go to feel like that's their place on your high school, middle school campus where they belong, where they can interact. A gaming machine may run anywhere from $900 to $2,000 a machine. We see a lot of rural schools starting with 5 PCs since Overwatch moved from 6 players to 5 players. We see some schools going for 10 PCs. We see schools picking up a couple of Nintendo Switches for a few $100s. And we work with schools to find grants and other things to cover some of those equipment costs as people are getting started. But for some of our rural schools, some schools we work with have a 100% busing rate, 100%. They can't keep students after school, so this is a great activity for students to compete from at home as well. We allow both, and we know that there are definitely benefits to both. We love seeing students in lab and on campus and on facility, but we understand that some of our very rural schools need to have an online at-home option. And so we're happy to accommodate and work through those things and train educators as they're adopting their programs. So those are just some costs to getting esports started. By and large, when it comes into comparison to other activities, esports is significantly less expensive than almost any other activity at your school district. One example I think about is football here in Grand Forks. One of our football fields is $1 million depreciated over 10 years. It's $100,000 for the field a year, and that's just one of our fields. My favorite quote is from a principal in Minnesota who continually sends hockey players to the Olympic team for the United States. That's out of War Road. You can see his video on YouTube. It costs more to water his football field than it does to participate in esports. That's my favorite quote. So when we're talking to administrators, we bring those people to the table because they go, oh, that's it. Whereas to us educators, we may go, wait a minute, that sounds expensive, but in reality, it's a small piece of an enormous pie. And our goal is to help compensate that with grants as well. Long-winded, I don't know how to shut up. Thank you for that question as well.
I did want to mention that we do, the cutting edge grant that we offer here in Wyoming is up to $25,000. It did just close on August 31st, so hopefully some of you got in on that. We are going to probably have another grant called the Workplace Discovery Grant that will open November 1st and close December 1st. We don't know what the dollar amount on that will be yet. But they're one-page Google forms. They're not difficult. And the cutting edge is really meant for anything that's new and innovative. If you're going to do something outside of the school day, you can include a stipend for yourself in order to do things outside of the school day. The Workplace Discovery Grant is really focused on helping our students learn those skills that are sometimes referred to as soft skills or employability skills, which I think esports, you could make a good argument for esports being able to help provide those and help teach those skills to students. We also have the Professional Development Grant that will open May 1st through June 30th next year. It's moving back to its original spot of up to $2,000 per teacher if you want to go to some sort of a conference. I don't know if esport teachers all get together at conferences or not, but
Yes.
if you have a conference that you'd like to attend where there will be other esports teachers. The other piece I'd like to remind you of is that this is in order for your district to receive Perkins funding, they did have to list a CTSO or a student opportunity for their computer science programs or their programs of study. So these are all meant to be co-curricular. Our CTSOs are meant to be co-curricular with our teachers in the classroom so that you're not necessarily having to do everything outside of the school day. We know that for a lot of our students, that's an equity issue, quite honestly, because some of them aren't able to stay after school due to family obligations, jobs, athletics or sports, whatever that may be, or look like in your community. A lot of them are bused, I know, in the rural communities. So think about that as well, that there is funding in your initial Perkins allocation that can be used for this. It's just a matter, and even if their budget has already been allocated, all they have to do is a budget revision request, and they can move money around in their Perkins allocation. So be aware of that as well. If you all get together and decide you're going to have a state competition in the spring, that is something that we could also look at helping to support from the Department of Education, especially initially to get it off the ground. We have, as you know, we support right now FBLA, FCCLA, DECA, FFA, and Skills USA, but we also support ProStart. We support Laura Baker's Capture the Flag contest and some of
Awesome.
those things. So we would be more than happy to look at sponsoring something to do with the state competition. And I think that Krista just dropped the FETC conference in the chat if you're looking for a conference that you'd like to take a look at as well. And there may be another one there as well. So make sure you take a look at what's available out there.
So Dr. Aldrich, one question I might throw out to the group chat. So we had an opportunity to hear from Julie and Krista and Carla. Kurt and Shelly and Carl and Amy, do you folks have any questions? Is your district doing anything with esports? Is this something that you might want to get involved in? I call on you folks because, I want to hear your voices and get to know some more folks across the state of Wyoming.
Long story short, I don't know basically anything, and we have no funding, so I'm going to try to take that on, but I don't even know where to start yet. So, yeah.
Well, I think we'll be able to figure
You could
that
feature
out.
mom.
And we have talked. I tried to do the cutting edge grant, but then I was told I also have to be certified at that point. So that's a huge part of it. And so I'm just trying to navigate everything so far.
You have to be certified.
Well, I have to be fully, I'm certified through, of course, but
A pick permit.
yeah, I have
right?
to get my certificate basically done with.
Okay, well, that must be a district policy because that's not a
Yeah.
state policy.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Are there schools that if the state were to be able to provide the $1,000 per team, for the initial registration, the per school, I guess it is, that would make a difference if you only had to raise the $100 per student to participate?
We've been told yes. We have for sure been told yes. That
But you're the marketer. Caitlin,
well, correct.
seriously.
Yes, that's my job, right? So we've heard those comments before. I see Carl, you had said nothing in TCSD at this time. Shelly, Amy, any additions, any questions? I want to make sure I give everyone a moment in the spotlight.
Our school is so small. I'm the yearbook advisor right now as well. I just finished my endorsement for computer science, but my original degree is art education. And so I just finished that, but I teach. So I teach art classes and I'm just learning how to teach computer science. And even with our yearbook staff, our school is 7th grade through 12th grade with 250 students.
Yep.
And with yearbook, I have a hard time getting kids able to take pictures because they're all involved in the activities.
Yeah.
So that would be one of our concerns, is that trying to balance that. Or the esports, do they go all throughout the year, or do they have a season like your football and wrestling?
Great questions all around there. And, we've worked with lots of school districts. I think the smallest school district we have doing esports has 60 kids K through 12. And so just a couple of opportunities that may exist is if there's neighboring schools that you folks might co-op with, we're happy to set up co-ops just like traditional sports. We do run it as a winter season at this point, which has worked really well with the schedule. So they're not traveling during the snow season. And what we've also seen is that these students, even if you have a smaller school, even in our rural communities, we have somewhere from 20 to 60% of the kids who participate are not in other activities. And so when we do surveys at these school districts, we're able to see this really interesting data, even in Wyoming, of, okay, who are we getting involved? Usually it's the kids who aren't. And even in school districts that are super involved, we might see those elements. So, that might mean there's someone else in the district who might be a good general manager if you're already scrapbooking and doing the yearbook, which is such an important part of the high school experience. I have all 4 of my yearbooks on a shelf and my middle school yearbooks from 7th and 8th grade as well. And they're always fun to look back at. And my hairline has only disappeared. So that's always a fun thing to look back at. But those are just some immediate comments. So we know what you're going through. And if you've received funding or things like that, that's an area where we might start with a survey, or we might look around to see if anyone is already doing esports, because that might be a way in for students in neighboring communities to make friends. So these are challenges that we have overcome in the past. Julie, I think that's a really great point to what Dr. Aldrich was asking about, which is, would that $1,000 make a difference? Middle school esports, no funds available. So that might be an opportunity where that grant could come in handy, and not from a marketer, salesy person, but from an educator. To Dr. Aldrich's comments, which is very true.
So I'm a part-time teacher at Laramie High School, and I'm a full-time computer science professional at the University of Wyoming. So
Awesome.
I haven't said anything because I just don't know where I would have the time to even think about this.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Amy. Our cybersecurity and our comp sci friends, everyone looks at them and goes, wait a minute, you know a computer, you must be nerdy and have time to run esports. And oftentimes we do see that being some of our lead educators, which is awesome. Alternatively, though, I think when our folks in the comp sci realm look at their student base, who's pursuing these incredible degrees for computer science and cybersecurity, it is our nerdy friends who are going on and making incredible money when they graduate. So that might be one of those things where maybe you start the conversation and introduce the school district to the idea of esports as part of Dr. Aldrich's vision for some of these CTE and CTSO type opportunities. But someone else at the school district might have the time to lead the program. We do have art teachers who lead programs. We do have comp sci teachers who lead programs. And apparently Shelly just likes working both the left brain and the right brain at the same time. within the day. Probably keeps you pretty sharp. But that's absolutely something that we can overcome because we don't want to inundate our educators who are really busy, especially folks like yourself, Amy. This reminds me of Ulrich in Fargo, who teaches comp sci at all 3 high schools and is driving around Fargo to meet the district's cybersecurity and comp sci needs, and is also the esports coordinator. And so happy to work through those issues as well, for sure.
I will say that I was not a gamer at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I had kids come and want to start this, and Carla is probably the same person. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's a secret League of Legends player, but but for the most part, my kids did it. And you know, I was there to do the research and the backstory and they had to go and pitch it to our principal, and I don't get paid. I have an assistant. We have about 60 kids that roll through my program on any given day. But the biggest thing is that, there's resources out there and people who we can put all the pieces together. We have a spreadsheet of all the things you have to whitelist and securely or in your filter. And those are the big things. And I know a lot of the IT directors are talking amongst themselves about this because it's coming. It's been a long time coming. I think over the years, I know, Carla and I have been part of a conversation with up to 15 or 16 schools that are running some sort of bootleg esports program, because that's what we're having to do because there is no funding. And like Julie said, we're told all the time that, the state of Wyoming is in a crisis and we can't fund this. It's one more thing. And, I'm doing football concessions. I sell snacks out of my classroom, and, we're raising the funds that way. So, we don't get paid, but 4 days a week, pretty much. So.
And Krista, that's exactly where Fenworks needs to come in. Our job is to help bring that firepower, discover more grant opportunities, and have conversations like this to support folks like you who are doing the hard work. We've had the privilege of doing this for years now in South Dakota and North Dakota, and just getting it started in Wyoming means, we're just trying to catch up to where the rest of the states are at. But Wyoming's not down and out. Wyoming's not behind. But we got to keep moving, and we're here to support you folks as you're doing that. And I think you've been very sort of innovative in terms of keeping the program going. And we need to show the state of Wyoming the value that it brings, because we've seen activities decline since COVID. Innovation is the solution. So we're happy to support that. I don't mean to be going over time, Dr. Aldrich, if I'm speaking too much, but hopefully sharing some insights there. And Krista, I appreciate that.
You are our only agenda today, Caleb, you and Zach. So
that's dangerous. I'm going to start working on my stand-up comedy routine over here.
Did you, I don't remember if I heard you answer the question. Are there any events currently planned for Wyoming that you have dates and
Zach,
people could save on their calendar?
I lean to you. I think we have the state tournament of Wyoming, at least the time period locked in. I don't know if we have the exact date. I think we're still working on the venue there.
Yep. We don't want to make Krista have to do 13 miles a day again. So we do like to have them at a university to kind of connect those kids to higher education. So we are tentatively penciled in right now for April 4th and 5th for the state tournament, and talking with Eastern Wyoming about hosting it. So that is tentative, pencil. Don't write that in pen.
And
great.
As Wyoming matures, we'll eventually have the state tournaments planned 3 years out, just like other activities. So we're on North Dakota, we're on a 3-year cycle. So you know where it's going to be for 3 years. South Dakota's moving to a 3-year cycle, and Wyoming's just 1 year behind South Dakota. So you folks, we should be looking at a 3-year venue here by end of this year is our goal.
I know that you guys have had some conversations with the Wyoming High School Activities Association.
Yes.
And with the superintendents. Is there anything that teachers can do to help move that forward?
Yeah.
As a recognized sport?
there are a couple of things in our books that I think make a big difference. So first, just getting a programs launched, right? Krista called it bootleg programs, which I really like. And it is kind of this bootstrap mentality that that is scrappy, right? Like think about what it was like 100 years ago to say football is going to be a sport, and think about where football is now. It's genuinely interesting to see that we get to be a generation that's a part of history, because we're going to look back at the first years of esports and we're going to have a written record, whereas so much of that information on football or basketball is just gone. We get to know that we're a part of this initial launching class, so to speak, of esports. With that said, launching programs, building programs, growing programs, just focusing on delivering great outcomes for your kids is enough. As more and more Wyoming schools continue to tell us that they're signing up and getting these programs launched, we know high school activities take notice. South Dakota may have started in our region, but North Dakota and Minnesota are looking. We've had good conversations with Wyoming. They're letting it mature a little bit, right? And I think what you're going to see is in a few years, this activity is going to be one of the biggest. If you want, launch a program and write a letter of support for it becoming officially sanctioned. That has a profound effect when they get and read in the high school activities board meetings in their open comment section letters saying, hey, my name is Krista, my name is Julie, my name is Carla, I have an esports program, the state, I think it's time the state takes a look at this. I promise you they read those and those do go somewhere. Our job at Fenworks is to make that happen. And frankly, partnering with our friends in CTE and DPI, that's a great step forward. To really formalize what's happening here. There are just resources that those institutions have that educators need. So, Dr. Aldrich, you know we're going to have your number on speed dial, for better or for worse. So, for better or for worse. So, yeah.
Any questions that any of you can think of for Caleb or for Zach? Zach's been really quiet today, so.
Caleb likes to talk, and I usually like to let him.
It's a good partnership. I'm not gonna lie. It works pretty well.
We have put together, I should tell you all this, a checklist. We had the tech IT coordinators from all the districts get together and put together a checklist that they would like teachers to consider before they start an esports team. Because we did have a school district who got a $25,000 grant for an esports program, and then discovered that their building was of such an age that it could not accommodate the electrical needs. So they've got all of their equipment sitting and haven't been able to use it. So there is a need to make sure you coordinate with your facilities people to make sure that you have what you need internally and with your IT folks to support esports. Any other questions that you guys can think of? Carla, thank you for being here. I know, Amy, there is an event going on at UW. Is it today and tomorrow? Around cyber stuff? Is it I can't remember the name of it, that digital assets and the crypto folks put together?
Could be, I don't know. I'm not part of it, so.
Okay, okay. I know that there's a big, they do a lot of competitions there in cybersecurity and things like that as well, so.
Yeah, that's usually the computer science department or something. It's not IT that does that, so.
Okay.
So, not to take us down too deep of a rabbit hole, but that's exactly what I would like to attempt for a moment. Something else that is really, really growing is drone racing. And I know this is a huge part of the world of CTE. And so we actually have a drone racing league as well that's multi-state, where students are actually competing in flying drones. Our goal is to bring high-tech activities to schools. And so we know that the CTE folks are using drones across all types of workforce development, armed services, higher ed. They're using the esports machines to fly these drones, using those types of controllers to do both simulation and real world racing. We're seeing this as part of precision ag and ranching programs. We're seeing this as a continuation of esports. This is something else we do. We don't want to overwhelm people. We do want people to know, though, that drone racing is coming to South Dakota and to Wyoming. Schools can do this program already, but we intend to bring out and partner with folks on these kind of activities. And that's real drone racing, students flying around doing laps and building these skills that they need in industry to do these activities. So again, operates very similar to an esports. Really great pack of kids here doing these activities. And we've watched this grow over, we've only been doing this for 12 months. So it's tough to be cutting edge because you have to learn a lot, but that's what we're here for. So just a small additional thing that's happening that you might hear more about as well. Any last questions for us? I mean, we've got time, Shelley.
We do have a drone club, but I do not run it. And they don't, we just started it last year, so I'm not sure if they do participate in those activities. I don't know if they went to competitions last year or not. I know they were struggling. They asked me to help with the phone app to help them. So they're using their phone apps to help.
A lot of those clubs are from in the classroom right now, and you're seeing those grow. Have you asked them to help you get great shots for the yearbook yet?
No, I haven't yet.
Yeah, there you go. So
I have asked them, but I've never seen any. That I should rephrase that. Yes, I did ask them. I've never seen any pictures yet.
It's incredible. We see that Devil's Lake. So some of our tribal communities are using drones for their yearbook and their class shows in the morning, you know, like their wake up to your school type things. And they've had really great success as those kids have been piloting and getting that drone footage and things like that. So that's been really
great
cool.
idea, because I do the Ranger. We have, with my yearbook, we do Ranger Media. We do our, we're not into daily news yet. We're trying to at least get a couple a month.
Yep, well, the sort of monthly or maybe weekly show. Yeah. I mean, that stuff is really great in that media use. I mean, so folks, drones are crazy.
That's a good idea. I will talk to them about that.
We try our best. We're full of a couple a year. Most of them are bad, but a couple are good, I promise.
And for those of you that'll be out at the Innovation and Learning Conference, we'll be out there too. So if questions pop up from them, Kale and myself, not Caleb.
Sorry.
Kale and myself will be out there.
Great. Well, thank you guys so very much for being with us this evening. Just a reminder that we do these huddles once every single month, and they will always be on this third Wednesday from 4 to 5. And I was just going to give you an idea of what the topic is for next month, because the leadership for the computer science folks has put together a calendar for the year. And so this next month in October, they are actually going to be having an evening meeting in October rather than a huddle that will meet during this time. So watch for information from Megan Garnhart and from Abby Hurley and the folks that are in your leadership for the Computer Science Teachers Association. We also will again send out the information on the new Spark program that CompTIA has that's for junior high and middle schools. That's completely free when we send out a copy of this recording. In November, we will be talking about virtual reality, and Z-Space will be with us talking about the new VR and AI products that they have, and what you need to be thinking about as you're getting ready to maybe spend some of your Perkins dollars on virtual reality and artificial intelligence. So we look forward to seeing you guys in November, and hope that you'll join Megan Garnhart and your leadership for a business meeting in October. But thanks for being with us today, and have a great rest of your fall semester.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.